As Logan and Sophie's love story continues, we're reminded that true love grows in the quiet moments. Where are you watching from today? Drop your country or city in the comments. We'd love to see how far this story is reaching. And if this touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe and hit the so you won't miss the next beautiful chapter coming tomorrow. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. Logan Scott never believed in love at first sight. 2. Him, real love wasn't fireworks or grand gestures. It was something that bloomed slowly like a flower reaching for sunlight after a long winter. When he met Sophie Lane, it wasn't in a whirlwind of romance or under some dramatic circumstance. It was at a quiet coffee shop on a rainy Tuesday in Seattle. She was reading a novel, her eyes lost in another world, while he stood in line, distracted by the gentle way she tucked her hair behind her ear. They didn't speak that day, not really. Just a glance, a small smile, but something lingered. A week later they met again, this time, by coincidence or maybe fate, at a mutual friend's birthday party. He remembered her instantly, and when he finally gathered the courage to talk to her, he found that conversation flowed like a river. She laughed at his awkward jokes, and he listened intently to the way she spoke about flowers, how each bloom had a meaning, a story. He learned that she ran a small flower shop downtown, and that she loved rainy days because they made her feel peaceful. He told her he worked in tech but dreamed of building something that helped people, not just made money. They started slow. Coffee dates turned into long walks around Green Lake, and late-night phone calls stretched into the early hours. There were no dramatic declarations or cinematic kisses in the rain, just two people, learning about each other layer by layer. Logan found comfort in Sophie's gentle nature, in the way she noticed the little things, like how he liked his tea slightly sweet or that he hummed when he was nervous. And Sophie, she admired how steady he was, how he never rushed her feelings, how he showed up every time he said he would. Months passed, and something unspoken began to grow between them, a quiet understanding, a soft kind of love that didn't shout but stayed. It was in the way he brought her sunflowers on Tuesdays just because, in the way she left sticky notes in his lunchbox with tiny drawings and encouraging words. It was in the ordinary, and that's what made it extraordinary. Logan once said, "Real love isn't something that hits you all at once. It's built day by day, choice by choice." And Sophie believed that too. They chose each other over and over again, even when life got busy, even when days were hard. Their love wasn't rushed, it was rooted, and that's why it lasted. Because the strongest love stories aren't always the loudest. They're the ones that grow quietly, steadily, like ivy up a wall. They take time, patience, and a heart willing to stay. It wasn't long after Logan and Sophie realized they were in love that they decided to take the next step. There was no big proposal with flashing lights or viral moments, just a quiet evening in their apartment, Chinese takeout on the floor, and Logan looking at her like she was the only thing that ever made sense. "What if we just did this forever?" he asked. Sophie didn't say anything right away. She just smiled, leaned in and whispered, "Yes." That was it. No fuss. Just love. Their wedding was small but beautiful, just close family and a few friends gathered by the lake in Tahoe. Sophie wore a flowy white dress with lace sleeves, and Logan looked at her like he was seeing magic. The ceremony was filled with laughter and happy tears, especially when Logan choked up reading his vows. "I may not be perfect," he said, voice trembling, "but I'll choose you every single day for the rest of my life." After the wedding, they moved into a modest two-bedroom house in the suburbs outside Seattle. It wasn't fancy, but it had a cozy porch, a squeaky floorboard in the hallway, and a kitchen that always smelled like cinnamon or fresh coffee. Sophie filled the house with plants and dried flowers, while Logan wired the entire place with smart lights and speakers. Their lives blended like colors on a canvas, different but perfectly compatible. But married life, as sweet as it was, came with its own set of challenges. Logan had just launched a new startup, and the pressure was intense. Long hours, constant meetings, endless pitches. There were nights when he'd come home at 2 a.m., tired, distant, his mind still spinning. Sophie tried to be patient, but some nights she lay awake staring at the ceiling, wondering if she was losing the very man she had promised to love forever. One evening, after Logan missed dinner for the third night in a row, Sophie finally broke. She didn't yell, but her voice shook. "I know you're building something important, Logan, but don't forget you already have something worth keeping right here." That night, he didn't go back to his laptop. He stayed. They sat on the kitchen floor, backs against the cabinets, and talked for hours, about fear, about expectations, about how love needs attention, not just promises. Logan apologized and Sophie cried, not because she was angry, but because she missed him. From that moment on, they made a pact. No matter how busy life got, they would always come back to each other. Every Friday became no phones night. Sunday mornings were for slow breakfasts and jazz music. They carved out space in the chaos because love, real love, doesn't survive on autopilot. It thrives in intention, in effort, and in the simple act of showing up. And so their love story, rooted in patience, began its next chapter. Not just being in love, but choosing to stay in love. Life settled into a rhythm for Logan and Sophie. Their house felt more like home with each passing season, filled with Sunday pancakes, books half-read on the couch, and music always playing softly in the background. But as comforting as routine can be, there was an unspoken question that began to rise between them. It started as a passing thought, a glance at the empty second bedroom, a quiet sigh when Sophie passed the baby section at the local market. One night in late fall, curled up under a blanket with hot cocoa in hand, Sophie looked over at Logan and asked, "Do you ever wonder what it'd be like? Having a baby?" Logan didn't answer right away. He stared at the steam rising from his mug, then nodded slowly. "I do," he said. "But it scares me. I mean, what if I mess it up? What if I'm not ready?" Sophie reached for his hand. "We won't be perfect, but we'll be together. That's enough, right?" 3 months later, on a rainy Monday morning, Sophie stood in their tiny bathroom staring at 2 pink lines. Her hands shook. She laughed and cried at the same time, the kind of joy that comes with just a hint of panic. When Logan walked in, still half asleep, she didn't say a word. She just held up the test. He stared, blinked, then smiled wider than she'd ever seen him smile. "We're gonna be parents," he whispered. She nodded. "Holy crap." He laughed. "We're gonna be parents." From that moment on, everything changed. Logan read every book he could find on parenting, from sleep schedules to baby-proofing cabinets. Sophie started sketching nursery designs on napkins and old receipts. They measured the room in feet and inches, picked paint colors that made them feel calm, sage green and warm white, and debated for hours over baby names. But it wasn't all dreamy Instagram moments. The first trimester hit Sophie hard. She was exhausted, nauseous, and moody in ways she couldn't explain. Logan tried his best, bringing ginger tea at 2 a.m., holding her hair back during rough mornings, but there were moments when both of them felt like they were walking blindfolded through something too big for words. At 18 weeks, they heard the baby's heartbeat for the first time, fast, strong, steady. Sophie cried. Logan did too. It was real now, this tiny person growing inside her, made from both of them. Then came the moment that changed everything. The first kick. It happened while they were watching a movie, Sophie's head on Logan's shoulder, hand resting on her belly. Suddenly she gasped. "Did you feel that?" Logan froze. "Was that?" She grabbed his hand, pressed it gently to her stomach. A second later, another little thump. They looked at each other, eyes wide, hearts full. That night, Logan whispered, to her belly, "Hey there, little one, I'm your dad, I can't wait to meet you." And just like that, their world expanded. No longer just Logan and Sophie, but something bigger, something deeper, a family. The night their daughter, Ella Grace, was born, the world went quiet and loud all at once. Sophie had gone into labor just past midnight. Logan, half-dressed and frantic, sped through red lights, one hand on the wheel and the other gripping hers. She was calm, surprisingly so, but her grip was fierce. "We're really doing this," she whispered between contractions. Logan could only nod, too choked up to speak. 12 hours later, after pain, sweat and tears, Ella let out her first cry, tiny, powerful, beautiful. Logan cried too, holding his daughter like she was made of light. Sophie, pale and exhausted, looked over and whispered, "She has your eyes, but no one tells you what comes after the magic. No one tells you how overwhelming it all feels once the flowers stop arriving and the congratulations fade." The sleepless nights stacked up like bricks. Sophie barely had time to shower, let alone draw. Logan, trying to balance his growing company with diaper changes and midnight bottle feeds, was stretched thin. They loved their daughter more than anything in the world, but some days they barely looked at each other, except to say, "Your turn." Arguments started small. Forgotten laundry, missed calls, then bigger ones about parenting styles, money, time. Sophie felt invisible. Logan felt like he was failing. And in those raw, tired moments, they both asked themselves the same silent question: is love enough? Then one night, everything snapped. Ella wouldn't stop crying. Sophie was pacing the living room, rocking her gently, eyes glassy with exhaustion. Logan walked in late again, tie loose, looking like he'd been run over by the day. She looked at him, defeated. "I can't do this alone." He froze. "I didn't know you felt alone." "That's the problem," she said, tears spilling. "You haven't asked." The silence between them was deafening, but instead of turning away, Logan walked forward. He took Ella into his arms, kissed her tiny forehead, then looked at Sophie. "I've been so focused on providing for our future, I forgot to be present in our now." That night, they didn't fix everything. But they started. They made space for conversation, for forgiveness, for grace. Logan rearranged his work schedule, turning down a promotion to spend more time at home. Sophie hired part-time help at the flower shop, allowing herself moments of rest. They created rituals, Monday morning, walks, Thursday night check-ins, even 5-minute hugs after tough days. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. And real was enough. They learned that love isn't just found in joy. It's tested in chaos, refined in stress, and proven in the decision to stay, even when it's hard. And as Ella grew, first words, first steps, first fall, they held each other through every season, every change. Because through the noise, the tears, the laughter, and the late-night lullabies, one truth remained. They weren't just surviving, they were growing, together. Time moved differently after Ella turned 5. It was like someone pressed fast forward. One moment Logan was chasing her around the backyard with a bubble wand, and the next he was tying her shoes for her first day of kindergarten. Sophie stood by the door with her camera, eyes misty, whispering, "She's growing up too fast." They had survived the baby years, the sleepless nights, the self-doubt, and somehow love didn't just last. It deepened. Their second child, Noah, arrived. 2 years later, quieter than Ella, with wide, thoughtful eyes that seemed to study the world. Sophie said he got that from Logan. Logan said he was just hungry. Their house, once too big, now felt like it was bursting at the seams. Laughter in the hallways, toys on the floor, scribbled crayon drawings taped to the fridge. And in the middle of it all, Logan and Sophie held on to each other, but life as it does kept testing them. Sophie's mum got sick that fall. She spent weeks flying back and forth to care for her, balancing motherhood and grief without skipping a beat. Logan picked up the slack at home, packing lunches, managing homework, reading bedtime stories with a flashlight when the power went out during a storm. One night, as they sat quietly on the porch, kids finally asleep, Sophie whispered, "I feel like I'm running on empty." Logan reached for her hand, squeezed it gently, "Then let me carry you for a while." It wasn't poetic, it was life, and somehow that made it even more beautiful. Years passed. Ella won a school writing contest. Noah broke his arm falling off the monkey bars. Sophie reopened her flower shop full-time. Logan's startup went public. They had built something bigger than success. They had built a life. One Sunday afternoon, as they watched the kids play in the yard, Sophie turned to Logan and said, "Do you ever think about how fast this all went?" "All the time," he replied. She leaned her head on his shoulder. "Do you think we'll still be like this when we're old?" Logan smiled, his eyes following their children. I hope so. I plan on it. There was no dramatic ending, no fireworks. Just quiet, steady love. Morning coffee and silence, sharing glances across crowded rooms, knowing when to speak and when to just hold hands. They had arguments, hard days, moments when things felt distant, but they always circled back, because love wasn't just a feeling, it was a commitment, a series of small choices made over and over again. And one day, maybe 30 years from now, when the house is quiet and the kids have kids of their own, Logan will still be making Sophie tea with honey. She'll still be pressing dried flowers into old books. And they'll still be sitting side by side, shoulder to shoulder, proof that real love doesn't fade with time. It only grows stronger. Love looks different for everyone. For some, it comes fast and loud. For others, it grows slowly, quietly, until one day, it's everything. After watching Logan and Sophie's journey, from strangers at a coffee shop to partners navigating the chaos of life and raising a family, what part touched your heart the most? Was it the quiet proposal? The first time they heard their baby's heartbeat? Or the way they chose each other again and again, even when things got hard? We'd love to know what you think. Leave a comment below and tell us which moment felt the most real to you, or share a part of your own love story. Whether you're in a relationship, hoping for one, or simply dreaming about the future, your words might touch someone else, just like this story may have touched you. And if you're watching from somewhere around the world, let us know where you're tuning in from. Your stories and voices make this community more special than ever. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you won't miss the next heartwarming chapter dropping tomorrow. We're so glad you're here. Let's keep writing love together.